I've always been able to debate any topic and tear down opposing arguments with pinpoint logic. You moron! What do you know about anything? You're a frightened little drone and can't even get a woman!
Well, I asked to know if you're going to ask me what kind of atheist I was. I've heard you ask that before.
What kind are you then?
Literally what atheist means, just not believing to God or God exists. Literally what atheist means, just not believing to God or God exists. Literally what atheist means, just not believing to God or God exists.
For another Bible-thumping wingnut Google Hangouting podcast with Matt Slick from carm.org.
I want to see if Jason is ready to come on. Jason is an atheist. Jason, if you...
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. You're on.
How's it going? You have a question? Do you have a question for me?
No, the way it works here is you come on and you engage with Matt Slick. So you've chosen to be here, and would you like to ask Matt Slick a question?
Well, I asked to know if you're going to ask me what kind of atheist I was. I've heard you ask that before.
What kind are you then?
Literally what atheist means, just not believing to God or God exists. But I guess earlier you said, I forget who said it, but if you can't confirm that a God exists using a scientific method, what method? Are you suggesting there is a method to use or not?
Let me ask you just a question here, and this is related to this. I want to teach a principle. I love my wife. Can I prove that to you scientifically?
I would say yes, possibly.
You are so mercifully free of the ravages of intelligence.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think you'd say that. Okay, what scientific repeatable model would you develop for you to find out that I love my wife?
Well, when you talk about love, you talk about a chemical reaction in the brain. Now, I'm not I don't even know what, whoever studies the brain, I don't know what you call those people, but that'd probably be a question, you know, you would have to ask them.
So love is just a mere chemical reaction there, and it's always a chemical reaction. That's nothing more, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't know that for sure. You're just assuming that. You don't have a response to that. And I'm trying to show you something is that there are certain things that the scientific method does not address. Like, which poem is better than another poem? Which style of poetry is better? Which flavor of ice cream is better?
Fine, better.
The scientific method is not designed for everything. For you to think, or for anybody to think the scientific method is the end-all for all things is ridiculous.
Well, I say it was, but I did. You're assuming there is a better. You're assuming there's intrinsic better.
No, the issue is, do we use a scientific method to determine God's existence? Because the scientific method is designed specifically to simply see how the physical realm works. That's what it's for.
If God exists, then it would be part of science. He would be.
How do you know? If he created the universe and he's not the same thing as the physical realm.
Say that again.
If God created the universe, as the scripture says, then he is not part of the physical realm. Therefore, he's not subject to the scientific method.
Oh, do I even have to elaborate?
First, you'd have to provide evidence there's anything besides the physical realm.
Okay, we're talking the philosophical approach here. I'm trying to show you something. You've adopted a philosophical approach by requiring scientific methodology. You cannot validate the scientific method using the scientific method. You make certain assumptions. You don't realize you're making these assumptions. You don't realize that what you're doing, even as an atheist, is making assumption after assumption after assumption, and just saying these are the right assumptions to go with. You can't even validate those assumptions from your atheistic perspective. Your atheism ultimately is self-refuting. Will not be able to demonstrate from your atheism that the scientific method is the proper methodology for determining knowledge in all categories. You don't do that. The scientific method is used to determine, to understand things in the physical realm only.
For providing an example of something that exists that's not physical.
Something that exists that's not physical?
Yeah.
My thought.
Your thoughts are chemical reactions, and it's not a thing that exists.
My thoughts don't exist?
No, the chemical reactions. It's not a thing that exists.
Okay, so you're a strict materialist.
You talk about Phil? No, I would say no.
Yes, you are.
No,
Yes,
I'm
you
not
are.
saying. I'm not saying the material's the only thing that does exist. I'm saying
You don't even.
no
Look, I'm
one
sorry,
has.
but you don't understand the issues. I'm sorry. Do you
You
know what materialism is?
I thought I did, but why are you telling me what it is, or what you think it
Materialism,
is?
materialism is the position that the material universe is all there is. It's also known as physicalism.
Yeah,
The
I never
physical,
made that claim. I never
you
said
are
that.
you are assuming it because that's what you're arguing.
No.
You're saying thoughts are nothing more than chemical reactions in the brain. That's materialism. That's what materialism is. It defines the physical thoughts, and that means it also means you're a property dualist. It means that
No, I'm saying the word thought in the English language, that's what it's referring to. If you're using thought to refer to something that exists, then that's something you would have to provide evidence for.
Wow, that's the single most boring sentence I ever heard.
all right.
I'm not saying it. I'm not
Hey, let
saying
me tell you something. Let me tell you
until the
something.
only thing
Jason,
that exists.
Jason, you haven't studied these things. You are risking your eternal soul on a methodology of thinking that has not been very refined. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I want you to understand that this is a serious issue, that you don't understand even the things that you're addressing, and you're coming out and speaking as though you do have a competent understanding on them, and that
I
you're
would
being
say
able to make
opposite.
assertions, and you don't. And
You
it's not.
don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm circuited to be logical and yet not to offend. That sometimes poses an insoluble problem. I have to be logical.
I don't, huh? Okay.
No.
Well, if I
You
don't,
understand the difference between a thing that exists and a chemical reaction or something that occurs.
okay. All right. So you don't know what? Do you know what property dualism is and substance dualism is?
Not sure.
I've had a lot of experience with semantics, so don't try to lure me into some maze of circular logic.
That you're not sure if you know?
I don't think I know.
Okay, you don't know. Do you understand what materialism is? I just defined it. Can you
Yes.
explain what materialism is?
You says claiming that material is the only thing that does exist.
That the material physical universe and that everything in the universe operates under the laws of the physical realm, which includes motion, matter, chemical reaction, and everything. That's what materialism is. That's what you hold to.
No, I don't hold that.
Ah, that is incredibly jejune.
Okay, I guess we're done
I'm not
talking.
saying-
Because this guy just contradicts himself all the time. Doesn't even know what he's
You
talking
haven't shown
about.
me a contradiction. Not believe. I
would-
never said material is the only thing that exists.
Jason,
I
I'm
didn't-
just saying no one has provided an example of anything else. I'm not saying
so until it's proven that something exists other than material, that's all you believe in, correct? That's your current position, right? Like right now, you're
no, I believe in anything that there's evidence for.
okay. But in regards to material and the non-material, you don't believe in anything that's non-material, correct?
Right. I don't. There's nothing that I do believe in that's non-material.
You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
Well then, stop
Neither-
back and forth then, Jason.
That's what materialism is.
No,
And
you
it's
talk.
debate-
It's kind of different between philosophical naturalism and mathematical or
methodological.
yeah. You kind of explain the two in the same way.
Okay, Jason, you work from the assumption that God does not exist because you say
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay, Jason. If you're not going to, come on, man. you work from the standpoint that God does exist.
No, neither. I don't have to work from the standpoint of either. I work for the standpoint I believe conclusion matched reality when there's evidence of conclusion matched reality.
Right. And what have you concluded about God?
Neither. I've not concluded he does, or I've not concluded that he does not exist.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's where atheism is not. Atheism is not asserting that God does not exist.
I think that what he just said was borderline functionally retarded, respectfully.
You work from the assumption that God does not exist because you say...
No, I don't. I've not concluded he does, or I've not concluded that he does not exist. Atheism is not asserting that God does not exist.
You work from the assumption that God does not exist because you say...
No, I don't. I've not concluded he does, or I've not concluded that he does not exist. Atheism is not asserting that God does not exist. Literally what atheist means, just not believing to God or God exist. Just not believing to God or God exist. Just not believing to God or God exist.
Just complete blissful leopard-spotted ignorance.
Jason,
I'm not an atheist.
Jason, there's various forms of atheism, and all you are doing is riding on the coattails of atheists who've had their rears handed to them by Christian philosophers and debaters. And so what they do is they say they lack belief in God. They don't affirm. They don't deny. So I got a question for you, Jason. Let me ask you a question. Do you behave based on what you believe or what you don't believe in?
It's a good question.
I behave in what I believe.
Okay.
But my beliefs do not come from atheism. A person can have beliefs.
Hold on a sec. Hold on. You behave based on what you believe. All right?
Yes.
Okay. Now the Bible says God exists. So I believe God exists. Okay? There.
Okay.
Do you agree?
I do not believe a God or God exists.
Of all the things I've lost, I think I miss my mind the most.
You said you don't believe. You can't lack belief.
That same thing. Not believing lack believing is the same thing.
So you don't believe it then? Is the statement true that God exists?
I don't know. I'm not claiming the claim is true or false.
Okay. What would qualify sufficient reasons for you to believe in God?
Evidence that a God exists.
What kind of evidence?
What do you mean, what kinds of evidence?
You're the one who told me evidence. I'm asking you. What kind of evidence would be good for you?
Any evidence that a God exists.
Okay. What would be good for you?
Any evidence that a God exists. There's the evidence,
Jason,
then there's evidence that God concludes match reality.
Jason, give me a specific example of something that would work for you. Jason?
Yeah, any evidence. See, here's the thing. There's evidence, like
Jason,
for example, the Bible.
Jason, I say, what kind of evidence? You say any evidence. Okay.
No, I didn't say any evidence. I said evidence that a God exists. Like
Okay.
the Bible might be evidence. Well,
Jason?
wait, let me say something. The Bible might be evidence for something, but the Bible might not. The Bible might be evidence that people wrote stories in the past that.
Oh my God, that has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
I'm asking you specifically. Give me an evidence that would qualify for you to be sufficient to determine that God exists. What would work? You don't know, do you?
Congratulations, son. You've got a very small brain.
Well, no, but but you
So hold on a sec.
You're conflating
You
evidence
don't
and
even
evidence
know,
that a God.
Jason. You don't even know what you require, and you want me to provide an answer for you, and you don't even know what you want.
Evidence that a God exists.
Okay. What would be sufficient evidence for you? Give me an example.
Any evidence that a God exists. Any evidence that a God exists.
Okay. I guess, Jason, you're just not understanding my question.
The only thing I know is I know nothing at all.
No, I am. You're just conflating. You don't understand the difference between evidence and evidence that a conclusion matches reality.
What would convince you that God exists?
Any evidence that a God exists.
Can you give me an example of that evidence? Can you give me an example?
Well, first you have to define which God you're talking about.
part of an intellectual elite.
Okay. Yeah, we're just going in circles. This guy's not. I think, is he trolling? I don't know if he's trolling even.
No, I'm just being honest. I'm just pointing out your
he's trying
your nonsensical question.
He's trying
nonsensical question. Wow.
He's trying to parrot what he's heard, and he's not doing a good job.
No.
And he doesn't know how to answer if he can't. Veckel, what do you think, man?
I'm a little concerned right now about your salvation and stuff.
Difference between philosophical naturalism and mathematical or